Listen closely, because what you're about to hear may be the most important message you receive this year. If you have an aging parent, if you're over 70 yourself, or if you've ever wondered what it really looks like when life reaches its final chapter, this video was made for you. Death is something we all know is coming, but rarely do we speak of it with clarity, honesty, or peace. We hide from it. We pretend it's far away, but for many it's not. And in those final weeks, sometimes even days, our body begins to whisper the truth. Not with fear, not with pain, but with sacred signals. The slowing of breath, the loss of appetite, the long, quiet pauses between words. 7 silent signs that the soul is preparing to let go. Most people miss these signs. Some panic, others ignore them, but the wise learn to see them, to honor them, to bring comfort instead of fear, presence instead of pressure. This video is not about fear of death. It's about understanding it, so that when the moment comes, for you or for someone you love, you'll be ready to meet it with peace, not panic. Because death is not always loud. Sometimes it's gentle. Sometimes it's holy. And if you know what to look for, you can walk through it with dignity, love, and presence. So do not scroll away. Stay with me, and let's uncover the 7 sacred signs that death may be near, so that when that time comes, you'll know exactly how to face it with wisdom. Let's begin the silent approach, accepting what most deny. There comes a moment in every life, a moment so quiet, so still, that you almost miss it. A moment when your body begins to whisper what your soul already knows. The journey is nearing its end. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And this moment is not loud. It doesn't scream or demand attention. It speaks in sighs, in silences, in the way your energy fades earlier than it used to, or the way your heartbeat begins to feel like a gentle drum fading into the distance. This is not something to fear, it is something to honor. You see, most people don't talk about death. They hide from it. They treat it like a mistake, like something that shouldn't happen if we just try hard enough. But the truth, the ancient truth, is that death is not failure. Death is part of life. It is not the villain of your story. It is the final chapter. And the wise, they know this. They do not deny their age. They do not lie to themselves about what is coming. Instead, they face it with courage. They pay attention, because in the final stretch of life, awareness becomes your strength, not denial. This message is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to free you, to help you see that recognizing the signs of death is not morbid. It's sacred. We prepare for weddings, births, new homes, and retirements, but we rarely prepare for the final transition. And because of that, we miss the chance to walk through it with peace. There are 7 signs the body and soul give when death is approaching, 7 sacred markers that whisper, it's time to slow down, time to look back, time to let go. And if we listen, if we really listen, we can meet the end not with fear, but with grace, with clarity, and with quiet strength. Because death is not about losing life, it's about completing it. And now, together, let's begin to understand the first of these signs, what it means when the body begins to step back and the soul begins to step forward. The body begins to withdraw when energy slips away. One of the first sacred signs that death may be approaching is not pain, but absence, a gentle withdrawing of the body from the world it once engaged with fully. It begins subtly. Meals go unfinished. Days that used to be filled with activity become quiet. The chair by the window becomes a trusted place of stillness. And more often than not, the body chooses rest over movement, silence over conversation, and stillness over stimulation. This is not laziness. This is not giving up. It's the body's way of conserving energy for the journey ahead. You see, the human body knows long before the mind accepts it. It begins to slow down to prepare for its final rest. Circulation changes, breathing becomes softer. Even the desire for food and drink fades, not because the person no longer cares, but because the body no longer needs as much. This is a sacred shift, and yet it's hard for families to watch. They often feel afraid. They try to push food, encourage more activity, or demand answers. Why aren't you eating? Why don't you get up more? But this resistance is not always helpful, because what's happening is not illness, it's nature. The body is wise. After decades of service, it begins its final act, not in panic, but in peace. It starts to retreat inward. The world outside becomes less important. Instead, the soul begins preparing to let go. If your loved one is withdrawing, sleeping more, talking less, or pulling away from routine, don't take it personally. Don't try to force them back into old rhythms. Instead, sit with them. Hold their hand. Be present. This stage is not about doing more. It's about being more. Speak softly. Offer gentle care. Play quiet music. Let the space be calm. Because when the body begins to retreat, the soul begins to listen more closely. And what it needs now is not pressure, but presence. This is the sacred pause before the final step. And if you honor it with love and dignity, it becomes one of the most powerful moments you'll ever witness. In the next part, we'll talk about the fading of appetite and thirst, and why it's not a failure of the body, but a message from it. The fading of hunger and thirst, the body's final message. One of the most misunderstood signs that death may be drawing near is the loss of appetite and thirst. To the living, it looks alarming. It feels like something is wrong, something to be fixed. You see your loved one pushing away food, leaving water untouched, refusing even their favorite meals. And in your heart, panic sets in. They need to eat. They need to drink. This isn't normal. But here's what you must understand. It is normal. In fact, it's sacred. You see, when the body begins preparing for death, it begins letting go of the things it no longer needs. Digestion slows. Energy is no longer focused on breaking down meals or processing fluids. The hunger signals that once roared become whispers. And then silence. This is not starvation. It is surrender. Not in weakness, but in wisdom. For those at the end of life, food and water may no longer bring comfort. They may even cause discomfort. The body, in its deep intelligence, knows what it needs and what it doesn't. And sometimes, letting go of physical nourishment is a sign that the soul is preparing for spiritual nourishment instead. Still, this can be heartbreaking for family and caregivers. You want to do something, anything, because food is love. Water is life. It feels wrong to stop offering them. But now is the time for presence, not pressure. Instead of forcing bites or counting ounces, offer moisture with a sponge or a few drops on the lips. Sit quietly, hold their hand, whisper words of love. Let your care be gentle, respectful, and still, because in these final days, connection means more than calories. You see, the soul is shifting now. It's looking beyond this world. It no longer clings to the old comforts. It prepares for a peace deeper than rest, and the body, wise and weary, begins to slow its needs. Honor that. Respect the change. Because when the appetite fades, it's not just the end of eating. It's the beginning of letting go. In the next part, we'll explore the changes in breathing and body rhythm, how the very flow of life begins to move towards stillness, and what it truly means when the breath begins to pause. Changes in breathing, the rhythm of departure. One of the most profound signs that the end of life is near is a noticeable change in the way a person breathes. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, barely noticeable. Other times it's deeply unsettling. long pauses between breaths, sudden gasps of air, a slow, shallow rhythm, or what's known as the death rattle, a sound caused by the body's inability to clear secretions from the throat. But what's important to understand is this. This is not suffering. This is not panic. This is the body's natural process, closing the final chapter of a long, sacred story. You see, breathing is the rhythm of life. From the moment we are born, our lungs take in air, fueling us with energy and movement. But when death approaches, that rhythm begins to change, not out of pain, but out of preparation. The body, no longer needing constant oxygen, slows down its function. The breath becomes irregular, like waves returning to shore, slower and slower until they stop. For loved ones, this can be deeply emotional. Every pause between breaths can feel like the last, and then suddenly, they breathe again. You wait, you wonder, you hold your own breath without even realizing. But this is not something to fear. It's something to honor, because in these final hours, the breath becomes more than a biological function. It becomes a sacred rhythm, a quiet song, a whisper between two worlds. And sometimes, it's as if the soul is choosing its moment, waiting for the right silence, the right presence, the right peace. So what should you do? Be still. Be there. Don't rush. Don't interrupt. Just sit with them. Hold their hand. Breathe with them. Let them know with every fiber of your being that they are not alone. Because in that room, with that soft breath, is a farewell being written not in words, but in silence. And soon the breath will cease. Not in tragedy, but in peace. In the next part, we'll talk about one of the most mysterious signs. When the body becomes cold and distant, but the soul seems incredibly near. A final transformation that speaks of departure without a single word. Now you've heard the truth. The 7 signs that tell us death may be drawing near. Not to frighten you, not to rush your heart into fear, but to bring you peace. To prepare you, not just for the end, but for how to walk through it with grace, dignity, and love. Because death is not the enemy. It is the final chapter of a sacred story. A story filled with laughter, tears, love, and lessons. When you begin to notice these signs in someone you care about, remember your presence matters more than your words. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to be there. Sit in silence. Hold a hand. Speak from the heart. And most of all, listen with your soul. For those who are watching this and wondering, what if these signs are already showing in me? Then take heart, because awareness is not a curse, it is a gift. It means you still have time. Time to say what needs to be said. Time to forgive, to thank, to love, to reflect. Time to leave with peace, not regret. We all must walk this path, but how we walk it, how we prepare for it, and how we support others through it, that is where wisdom lives. So if you've made it this far, thank you. It means you care, and that care might change someone's final days forever. Let death not be a stranger. Let it be understood. So when it comes, whether quietly or swiftly, we meet it not with fear, but with presence, peace, and love. Because in the end, how we leave this world matters just as much as how we lived in it.